Assalamu alaikum. Hello and welcome to Gurukul Online Learning Network. Today I'm your instructor Sheikh Mahadi. We're going to study finance, banking and insurance. Chapter 6, long-term financing. So, long-term financing, in the previous one, we learned about the concept of long-term financing. So, let's talk about bond. Here begins all the maths sections. Bond. What's a bond? Bond is a debt instrument through which an investor lends money to an entity. Entity means entity can be anything. It can be a person, it can be a business organization or an educational institution. Entity is something that is being related or cooperating with someone. That is called an entity, the soul of anything. That's an entity. Entity could be corporate or government or could be personal. So, and when an investor lends money to an entity that borrows the funds for a definite period of time at a fixed interest rate. That means, suppose I took Taka 1000 from my friend. I am an entity and he is the borrower. He gave me some money and for a fixed amount of time, I told him that after 1 month, I will give him the money later on. But this is a very mutual and friendly relation. In case of institution or in the commercial section, this does not happen. When someone borrows money to someone, lends money to someone, they borrow it, and within the terms and agreements that they will return this money with a very specific amount of interest after a very certain amount of time. So bonds are used by companies, municipalities and government to finance a variety of projects and activities. The companies within the things that are going inside the company's own work or the government's own work or the municipality's own work, those are financed within their own capital, but they have to do a project outside that or activity outside their company which is not entirely interrelated with them. In those cases, they are taking bonds. So bonds are commonly referred to as a fixed income security and are one of the three main asset classes along with stock and cash equivalent. So that means bond is one of the three main assets: cash and stock, with stock and cash, stock, cash and bonds. Those are the three main classes of fixed income security. So as a record instrument, it's a promise to pay interest and repay principal at stipulated time. So as a secured instrument, bond is a very secured instrument which promises a lender or a borrower to pay back the money at a certain time with a certain amount of interest with it. That's why bond is called as a security instrument or a security payment method. Bonds do have characteristics or features as we learned about the long-term financing. So bond has few of the characteristics which are par value, coupon rate, coupon payments, maturity date, call date, sinking fund, security, yield. So we'll just explain all of those. Par value. The par value is the amount of money that is paid to the bondholders at maturity. That means when the maturity date is finished, the amount which is paid. Coupon rate. The stated rate of interest that bond is referred as the coupon rate. That means the how much amount or what is the how much price is that of that bond is called the coupon rate. Coupon payment. The coupon payment represents a periodic interest payments from the bond issuer to the bond holder. The annual coupon payment is calculated by multiplying the coupon rate by the bond face value. The coupon rate and the bond face value. The bond face value is when the bond was released in the market or given to the person who was borrowing it. A multiplication by the coupon rate. Coupon rate we discussed before this one. And before this topic, we discussed the coupon rate. Maturity date. What's a maturity date? Maturity date represents the date on which the bond matures. This time when the company is obligated to pay the bondholder par value of the bond. Last coupon payment is also paid on the maturity date. So you see, maturity date is when the bond is matured. That means when it's time to pay the bondholder. It's time to pay the bondholder their money they are requested or given to or promised to pay at a certain amount of time. That is called maturity date. Call date. For bonds contains a call provision. Bond which can be redeemed by the issuer prior to maturity. What does that mean? Issuer prior to maturity. Prior means before. Maturity means the date when the bond is being matured or when its time is finished. That at that time, if the bond's money is taken before that time, before maturity, that's called a call date. Prior to maturity. This issuing company has the right to call the bond for redemption after the time being specified. So, sinking fund. What's a sinking fund? Some bonds also include a sinking fund provision that facilitates the orderly requirement for the bond issue. The firm may be required to deposit money, which investment or funds uses an accumulated sum to retire the bonds when the bonds are actually matured or given up to the date. Security. Bonds are generally secured by the present and future immovable asset. Immovable means the assets which cannot be moved from here and there. These are one fixed kinds of asset. So the immovable assets of the company by which are the equitable mortgage, unsecured bond may be issued by corporation which are termed as debenture or debts. Those are unsecured. Those are a totally different topic. We may discuss them in the later classes. But claim on income and assets. The payment of interest, repayment of principal of bond has superior claim on income and asset than other securities like common stock or preferred stock. As we knew, stocks are of different kinds. We learned it in the business or the financing classes. In both of those, stocks are of different: common stock, preferred, deferred, bonus, right share, different kinds of shares and stocks. Yield. What is yield? Yield on a bond is related to the market price. Therefore, it could be different from the coupon rate of interest. Yield may be of two types. The one is current yield and the other one is capital gain yield. Current yield. So this yielding has two types of formulas and two types of maths. We can take a look at those, what are called yields. So current yield's formula would be coupon payment divided by market value of the bond. So for instance, take an example of current yield of a ratio. Say for example, the bond has a face value of taka 1000 and the coupon rate is only 12% annually. What does that mean? Face value of taka, this is not face value, it's called the market value of the bond. And the coupon rate annually is 12%. So the coupon payment will be 220. That means 12% into 100 or 1000 to make that into convert it into percentage. Now, if the price of the market bond is suppose taka 800, then the current yield after that would be our market value. We just said 800. 800 we just said market value, and the current yield, as we said, which was the only 12% coupon value, coupon rate or the coupon percentage only 12% annually. If we convert that into percentage, breakdown to percentage, we will get 120. So 120 is the coupon payment and the market value of the bond would be 800 taka. So 120 divided by 8 will get 0.15, which breaks it down to 15%. 15% is the current yield. But let's see, what's a capital gain yield? Second to that, currently second to that, capital gain yield. Ending value minus beginning value divided by the beginning value. So what is capital gain yield? A capital gain arises from the market value, change of market value of the bond. Say the previous bond has been purchased by someone by taka as usual 800. After 1 month, that has been increased to taka 850. So the capital gain, this 800 increased to 850, a 50 taka raise. That means ending value would be 850 and the beginning value was 800. The ending value, that means when the market was taken to 850 and then the beginning was 800. So let's take a look at it. 850 minus 800 divided by 800. So 850 minus 800 divided by 800. It will bring us down a simmer of 50 divided by 800. 50 divided 800 would take us 0.0625, which will be 0.0625. Multiply that or take it into percentage section, that will be 6.25%. That is called the current gain yield. Now, if Mr. Arif wanted to sell that bond, after he will gain both yield in his total yield, and that could be, it's a total yield is just normally current yield plus capital gain. Current yield plus capital gain yield. Current plus capital. Current was 15. Capital is 6.25. 15 and 6, 21.25%. 21.25% would be the total yield of Mr. Arif or whatever, Mr. X we could name him. So, time frame. Let's take a look at those. Periodic interest payment and principal payment at maturity. There are two types of maths we're going to do, but first we'll just do this one. Periodic interest payment. The interest bond that effectively, that says the face value of which would be taka, suppose BDT 1000 with a coupon rate of 10%. That means the bondholder can get each year an interest payment of BDT 100 up to 15 years. That means the present value of these equal interest payment can be determined using the present value of annuity concept. Present value of annuity concept. This one. Principal payment and maturity. At the end of every period, the principal amount must be returned to the holder and the bond and return the whole instrument, in which the previous example of the holder BDT, we said 1000 taka at the end of 15 years. But the present value of principal payment can be determined by the simple present value of the amount. So, they determine the present value of interest payment annuity, which is this formula. It can be easily said, principal payment and discounting rate will be required. Discounting rate would be I. Payment methods would be A. So, to discounting rate that depends upon average of other similar risky instruments in the market. However, the riskiness of individual issued bond must also be considered. So, the present value of a bond would be PVA. PV is equal to A into 1 minus 1 plus I to the power minus n divided by I into M divided by 1 plus I to the power n. So, what does A stand for? Amount of equal interest payment. Amount of equal interest payment. Let's took PVA. PVA means present value of the bond. We do not need to say that. N is equal to number of years. We found out the N. I, required rate of return. Required rate of return, and finally leaves us with M. M is the principal payment of maturity. Bond does have a maturity period. Principal payment at maturity. The principal payment, that the money we took has to be paid at maturity. That is called the principal payment. The money that was taken has to be returned. Principal payment maturity. These are all the functions of the small categories of that. For example, let's take a look at an example. Some textile industry has an outstanding BDT of taka 1000 par value bond with an 8% coupon interest rate. That means I, the coupon interest rate. The bond has 12 years remaining to its maturity date. The N, 12 years remaining to its maturity dates. If find the value of the bond. So, we need to find the value of the bond within the required return is only 10%. So, the value of the bond would be like, as they said, PVA, the annual equal interest rate of payment, we will be taking it held into 80. How much was our interest given? Our interest was given at a required rate of only 10%. So, 10% if you break that down would be 0.10. 0.10, as we see, minus N, and N was given of total 12 years. 12 years in minus 12 divided by 0.10. How much was our M? Or what did the M indicate? M indicated the principal payment at maturity. As we said, that any kind of textile industry has an outstanding of 1000 par value bond. So, that is the principal payment that has to be returned after a certain period of time. That would be 1000. If calculating all of those, take those into step by step, then we can get a final result of 864. 864, just calculate these, all these are easy as hell. 864.12. So the present value of the bond would be BDT 864.12. Let's mention BDT. So this is just the normal present value of the bond. After this class, we can learn about the principal payment at maturity, the periodic interest payment. Finally, if you have any kinds of question regarding these classes and the maths, please let us know down in the comment box below. And thank you for being with Gurukul.